What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires. Now, there have been so many plot leaks and rumors for Deadpool 3, it's sort of hard to keep track of them all, but the latest that we had heard from the industry insiders and rumor mill was that the villain of the film would be, quote, a familiar face and somebody we knew from the 616. Now, when we covered that just over a week ago and towards the end of the video, after we ran down all the normal suspects, who has contracts, who's still in the MCU, and who the most likely choices could be, one thing I made sure to remark at the end of that video was that none of this, none of the plot leaks or rumors, none of the industry insiders nailed one confirmation that we already had and from earlier in the year, that actor Emma Corrin had joined Deadpool 3 and to play the villain. Well, breaking late yesterday and from one of the trusted industry insiders, we now know exactly which villain she happens to be playing. We're going to talk about who that is, her relationship to Professor X, why in the world she's even the villain in this movie in the first place, and of course, what it means for all those plot leaks that have just failed to mention her character in any context. I think it blows the doors wide open for what's going on with the plot for this film. I also think the introduction of this character is somewhat curious but makes sense given the context of the film that we already know. We're breaking down the latest revelation that Emma Corrin is indeed playing the villain and just who that villain is in Deadpool 3. But first, if you could grab the subscribe button, we do daily Marvel content at the channel, and that's all we do. Everything from official Easter egg breakdowns, trailers, and reviews to the occasional industry insider report and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. That will automatically enter you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. The next one is right around the corner. All you got to do, be a sub, leave a comment on this video if you want, stick around to the end of the video, we get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so while you'll probably see this break across the industry for today and maybe the rest of the week, this actually originates with industry insider Can We Get Some Toast, who late yesterday confirmed on Twitter that actor Emma Corrin will be portraying Cassandra Nova in Deadpool 3. Now, while I do tell you guys to take this stuff with a grain of salt, Can We Get Some Toast is one of the most trusted industry insiders, and if you needed any extra confirmation, Emma Corrin does absolutely fit the physical bill of being what Cassandra Nova looks like from the comics, or rather, think of her for this film in terms of a female Professor X variant, but it's a little more complicated than that. This, according to her published origin quote, Cassandra Nova Xavier is what the Shi'ar call a Mummandrai, the spirit that is equal and opposite of a person. However, due to the amazing genetic potential of Professor Charles Xavier, his Mummandrai was able to create a physical form, effectively a twin. While gestating in her mother Sharon Xavier's womb, Cassandra was recognized by Charles as an evil presence, and he preemptively tried to kill her with his nascent psychic abilities. Cassandra was barely able to defend herself, and the shock of the rolling battles caused Sharon to have a miscarriage. Though the doctors pronounced her stillborn, Cassandra in fact survived and spent the next decades as a growing mass of cells in a sewer wall before building a new body for herself and planning her revenge on her brother. Okay, so number one, for a movie that's in the middle of a multiverse saga that's obsessed with introducing variants of each character every time they get the shot, this isn't exactly a Professor X variant, but given the context and fabric again of the storytelling, it makes a lot of sense why she's the villain. She's also completely OP. As OP as she sounds, she's even really more powerful than Professor X, and while they do manage to defeat her a couple of times, she is hellbent on destroying mutants, and in fact, from the main 616 storyline, she actually ends up massacring 16 million mutants as soon as she becomes powerful enough on Genosha. So I think this actually sets up a pretty straightforward storyline, and while I do expect Deadpool and Wolverine not only to fight each other, but a lot of the other X-Men and characters along the way, it really for me makes it feel like this film is headed in maybe a totally different direction than any of the plot leaks and rumors we had heard before. Now, if you guys have been keeping up with the rumor mill and the channel, you know a lot of rumors said earlier that this was going to be basically a Deadpool kills the Fox X-Men or a Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe movie, where we're going to see Ben Affleck's Daredevil, we're going to see some old Fantastic Four members, obviously some old Fox X-Men members, and they were going to go through and kill them all or face off against them. But remember, none of those mentioned Cassandra Nova at all, not in any shape or form involved with the story. And now that we know that she's the villain and the type of villain she is in the multiverse, it certainly makes me feel like this whole plot is headed in a totally different direction, where they're going to recruit Ben Affleck's Daredevil and Jennifer Gardner's Elektra, where they'll go get a couple of members of the Fantastic Four, some of those Fox X-Men, some of the returning X-Force members from Deadpool 1 and 2, and they'll all face off against Cassandra Nova as a major team up, sort of like a multiverse battle. And before we get there, now whether or not this will involve any members of the Avengers or MCU members is yet to be seen. The earliest rumors said we would see some MCU Avengers. None of the recent rumors have said anything like that at all. And of course, this all comes full circle back to hearing just weeks ago that the villain of the film would quote unquote be a familiar face. This seems to indicate something completely opposite, and so I'm pretty excited because I love hearing this late in the game that a lot of the plot leaks and rumors that we had covered, even though I remind you guys to stay skeptical, were completely misguided and had nothing to do with what the actual plot of this film is. Now, does this mean that she'll continue into the future of the MCU? I'm not sure, and I also think it's kind of curious that Marvel would go and burn a villain like this in a one-off, because again, as I mentioned during this video, she is OP to the max, but there are a lot of really great X-Men villains that they could do in the future of the MCU, namely Mr. Sinister, and the list goes on and on and on. So I really don't think they're jumping the shark at all by using Cassandra Nova in this before we get into the main continuity X-Men of the 616 in a future saga. Now, speaking of which, before the SAG-AFTRA strike, there was actually an interview with Empire Magazine with Emma where she spoke candidly about being the villain in this film. This was as reported by The Hollywood Reporter, quote, Emma Corrin is opening up about their upcoming role as the villain in Deadpool 3. In an interview with Empire Magazine conducted before the SAG-AFTRA strike, Corrin shared that they were, quote, really excited to play the villain, however, which villain still remains a secret. Quote, I haven't done that, and it's an itch I wanted to scratch. I had heard about the project, but classic Marvel, they couldn't tell me anything about it. Absolutely zilch. So I met him being like, I don't know what all of this is about. Quote, I've watched Spider-Man and Black Panther, and I was like, look, you're gonna have to debrief me into this. It's such an intricate world, there's so much to it. It's an absolute mind F. All of the language and the Easter eggs, and this person is related to that person who did this, and this person came back, and this person's dead. It's amazing. They finished by saying, I really understand why it means as much as it does to so many people. It's a phenomenon. I feel lucky to be a part of it, especially Deadpool, because I love the fact that it's self-aware and critical of its own inner workings. Which is my final thought. This is such a serious villain. Seriously, she's done so much messed up stuff in the comics, and she has such a grotesque origin. This is such a serious villain for them to use in a Deadpool film, so I actually can't wait for them to play against that because she's so serious and they're just not. And I also can't wait to see if I'm right about my inclinations now for the plot, that this ends up being a huge team up between a bunch of superhero teams we would have never gotten to see crossover in the first place. Remember, Kevin Feige said about this film and long ago that they were looking to up the ante with Deadpool 3 as they normally do with the third installments of their franchises. And while maybe that's come to mean a little bit less as of late with, say, something like Ant-Man, if you look at Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or the comparison he used with Captain America 3 Civil War, there's definitely crossover vibes or major battle vibes in some of those. I could definitely see that translating here. Guys, let me know all your thoughts down below. A, about the villain choice, and B, what you think it ultimately means for the plot and what's going on in this film. I am all ears as always. Quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. Alright, we are still giving away PlayStation 5s here at the channel until the PlayStation 5 Pro comes out, then we'll switch to that. In the meantime, we may have 3 if not 4 giveaways left before the end of the year for the PlayStation. So if you want to be entered to win, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button because you need to be a subscriber, then leave a comment down below. Because it's truly random, the more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be announced at the end of videos, the same way we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. And as always, if you liked today's video, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. My name's Michael Roman. Find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to original music under the name Allfires. And while I sincerely appreciate you checking my music out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.